Evening, everybody. How are we this evening? The subject matter which we're going to cover this evening has a lot to do with those unspoken things that happen during the driving test. And a lot of people, when I get people who've done the driving test a number of times, will come back to me and then query certain things again. Will come back to me and say, well, I didn't know this or I didn't know that. Just a quick introduction. We have our lovely marketing person, Lariska, here, who's here this evening. And we also have our client manager person, Michaela. She's one of our client managers who's attending for us this evening to just make sure that we've got all the right answers and we're not going to get stuck with questions that we don't know how to answer. So Lariska looks after the advertising and make sure that everybody gets notified about the webinars and things, and then also was and is a client manager as well. She also does some client management work. But Lariska is an expert client manager, so if anybody's got any questions, please ask either one of the two of them. But Michaela is a consultant client manager. She's got 2 badges already. Okay, guys, and I'm the driving instructor fellow. I'm the guy who sits with our lovely students in the car and works with them all the time. And we will be taking questions, live questions. So I already see one of the attendees has already got their hand up for questions. And we will take live questions when we've gone through some of the subject matter we want to cover this evening. So we're going to take live questions from you people as well. We normally do that on the webinar. So if anything comes up in our discussion, or you've got something, doesn't matter if it hasn't come up in your discussion, you're unclear about certain procedures in the test and or anything that we supply as well. Guys, we've had a lot of success with these webinars. It has been really, how can I say, encouraging to see how people have developed using the webinars and how that has helped them as well. Okay, so let us start. What happens in the driving test? One of the things that happens in the driving test is sometimes people go to the driving test with small habits that create problems for the driving instructor. And one of those one of those things that I often find up with people who are in a cycle of failure. I'm going to address things that during my years of being a driving instructor, I have picked up as like almost as if a person isn't aware of it. They're not aware of the fact that they do this, and that creates problems for the examiner. And the one thing is smooth driving. Now, people often ask me, what is smooth driving? Well, smooth driving is, I'll give you an example. You're coming up to a traffic light and the traffic light is red. Now, instead of braking over a long distance and bringing the speed of the car down gradually, you drive right up to almost as close as you can and then hit the brake. Now, okay, you've stopped for the red light. That hasn't been wrong, but it hasn't been a pleasant accompaniment. The examiner hasn't found it pleasant in the accompaniment. Now you sit there and the light goes green, and then the cars pull away in front of you, and all of a sudden you punch the accelerator and the examiner flies backwards as you drive off. Now, that in itself is not a major fault. Or you come up to a roundabout and you don't brake gradually into the roundabout till you get to the roundabout, come to a stop or slow right down. You drive right up to the roundabout and the examiner is already sort of thinking, well, are you going to stop or not? And then you hit the brake. Now, what can happen is they can mark it as a fault for incorrect control, but often it's not enough to be marked, or it's not identified as a mark. But now the examiner flies forward in his seat. And then you see the roundabout's clear and you punch the accelerator and the examiner flies back in his seat. Now that is really uncomfortable driving. And I often find that students, sometimes the students are not even aware that they're doing it. They're not even aware that that's a problem. Now that's going to irritate the examiner. And then he starts looking for problems. He starts thinking there are other problems. He doesn't feel like a professional drive. And you've got to be really careful with that. The more professional you can make that drive feel, the better it's going to work. The better and the more comfortable the examiner is going to be about the drive. That is, it sounds like, well, that's not important. It is really important. The other thing with smooth braking, which why you should be really careful with braking, is the more you do this jerk, foot jerk on the brake, punching the brake, the more you do that, the more you increase the chances of somebody going into the back of you. Now, the more you can anticipate, the smoother you can make that drive, the better it is. And you should always be working. Doesn't matter if you're driving automatic or manual, doesn't matter whether it's a Tesla or it's a Vauxhall or it's a Volkswagen, it doesn't matter what you're driving. You need to keep it smooth. It has to be a smooth drive. Nice, gentle move off, nice, gentle braking over long distances. These sort of things impress the examiners, okay? Now, reacting to speed changes. It's really important to show the examiner when you see a speed change. Now, there are two ways that you can show an examiner that you've noticed the speed change, okay? So let me ask somebody, can you guys in the Q&A box, who thinks they know how you show the examiner the speed change? This is really important. Showing the examiner the speed change helps the examiner understand that you've seen the sign and you're going to react to it or are reacting to it. How do you show the examiner that you've seen the speed change? How would you show the examiner? Anybody want to hazard a guess for that one? Oh, it's all quiet tonight. Maybe I'll ask our expert client manager, Michaela, how would you show the examiner a speed change? Linda. Yes, that's it. That's it. So how you would show the examiner that you've seen the speed change is immediately doing a mirror check, center and right or center and you do, if you're slowing down, you're checking your center. If you're slowing down, if it's a downward speed change, you're slowing down, you need to check your center and right mirror to see if anyone's overtaking you and to see if somebody is actually seeing that you are slowing down. I'm going to ask you a question, a really interesting question. I want you guys just to think about this. Let's assume you're slowing down at a set of traffic lights. And you look in your main mirror, and you're busy slowing down, and you look in your main mirror, because you're slowing down for the traffic lights, you're doing this over a long distance, you're slowing down, you look in your main mirror, and there's this guy in his big white van sitting there eating his sandwiches and texting at the same time. How would you draw his attention? He's not noticed you at all. You can see he's not even looking up. You are having to slow down for a traffic light, and he hasn't noticed you. How would you? Really good question here. See if you can answer this one. How would you get that guy's attention that you are slowing down? Because he can see, if he looked up, he'd see your brake lights and he'd be able to slow down. But he's busy, his girlfriend's got him in the corner and she wants money and he's got a sandwich in his mouth and he's chewing the sandwich. He's not looking up and the light has changed and he's not expecting it. And you're sitting in the car, what are you going to do? Are you going to wave your arms? He's not looking at you. What are you going to do? Come on, guys. This one, I think this Q&A should be worth something. Here's a £10 Amazon gift voucher for the first person who can give me the right answer to this one. Brake lights? No, he can't see your brake lights. He's not looking. He's busy with his girlfriend and he's eating his sandwich and he's busy with his girlfriend. Come on. How do you get that guy's attention? Yes. Yes, we have an answer. Horn. You use your hooter. You use your hooter. That's what you use. You use your hooter. Amazing. Okay, take the man's name, and Lariska. Take the man's name. We're going to send him a £10 Amazon gift voucher. Okay?
Got it.
It's on special from us. Brilliant. Yes. You use your hooter. If you are slowing down and you look in your mirror, and I'll tell you, this really happened to me. I'm driving into London. Guys, you cannot believe it. You just shake your head and wonder. I'm driving into London, and there's this girl behind me in her VW, in her Volkswagen. And she's got her makeup on the dashboard. And she's got a cup of coffee, obviously, in the thing next to her. And she's busy, and she's got the mirror down in front of her. And she's busy makeup, and she's trying to drive and drink coffee, and she's busy with her makeup. I couldn't believe it. You just freeze. It happens. It really, really happens. You can't believe that people can be so ridiculously stupid about things. But she was quite happy doing her makeup, drinking her coffee, driving down the road, oblivious that there are other people who might get driven over. Anyway, that's not right. Okay. All right, so let's carry on with this. So yes, so we are now trying to tell the examiner. So the first thing you do is you think to yourself. This is a really good way to do your mirrors. You think to yourself, mirror, mirror, and you look into the main mirror, and you look into the right mirror, and you tell the examiner you've seen the speed change. And guys, where does the speed change actually happen? When you see the signs, do you know where the speed change happens? Does anyone know where the speed change happens? It happens at the point where the signs are. So if the speed is 60 miles per hour, it's 60 miles per hour up to the point where the 40-mile signs are. From there, or the 30-mile signs, that's where the speed change happens. So if you're coming along and you see the signs, you have to be at that speed when you go through that set of signs. The signs are normally on both sides of the road. You have to be at that speed. So when you see the signs, you must check your mirrors, slow down if it's a slow down. If it's a speed up, you can only speed up. You can't speed up when you see the signs. The speed, if you're going, say, from a 20 to a 30, then you can only speed up after you've passed the 20 sign. And reacting to those things accurately and using your mirrors before you speed up and before you slow down really helps the examiner think, wow, this guy knows his oats. Yeah. Okay. And smooth driving. Don't punch the accelerator. Don't punch the brake. Okay. All right. Highlighting mirror checks. Don't let the examiner guess whether you're checking your mirrors. Honestly, guys, that is, if the examiner has to guess whether you're checking, if you're driving along and you say, well, I'm looking in the mirrors, my eyes are going like that. Did I look in the mirrors? No, you don't want the examiner guessing whether you've looked in the mirrors, because invariably he'll guess you aren't looking in the mirrors. Rather show him, think in your mind. Think in your mind, I'm going to show this examiner. And the way you do it is just turn your head. Turn your head towards the center mirror and turn your head towards the right-hand mirror or the left-hand mirror, whichever mirror is appropriate. And you must actually, the way I teach my students, as I say to them, when you're coming up to a junction and you get the instruction, turn left at the end of the road, do an immediate mirror check. Center mirror, left-hand mirror. Now you've actually done the mirror check. Then before you put on your signal, because you're too far away from the end of the road, then you do a mirror check again. Center mirror, left-hand mirror, signal on, and there you go. All right? Okay. The next point is wearing clothes that show respect to the examiner. Guys, don't pitch up there in your party clothes you were wearing last night at the club and have them smell like booze and you clearly haven't slept all night. Or don't, a dirty old tracksuit. And honestly, it guiles the examiners, and it really, you need to show some respect. A pitch up there in your tux with a little tie and everything, and really look smart. Okay, smart casual. Okay, you don't need to do the tux, but smart casual. Show respect to that examiner. Okay, that helps as well. All right, remember those guys are on an ego trip. Don't challenge their ego. They've got the power. Yeah, right. Wearing clothes that respect the examiner. Then humility. Guys, the examiner has the power. Don't try and outdo the examiner. Don't tell him you're a famous singer. Don't tell him you're a whatever. Just be humble. He's going to ask you. One of the favorite questions they ask on the test, to make conversation. You'll hear this. I tell you, I've hardly ever been on a test where you don't hear this question. The question is, and what would you be doing today if you weren't doing your test? They have been trained to ask that test. That's part of their script. What would you be doing? The examiner will say to you, what will you be doing while you're driving, to see if you can actually drive while you're speaking? What will you be doing if you were not on your driving test today? And don't tell him you're a solicitor and you run 10 companies and this and that. You're just challenging his ego. You're telling him you're much better than him, and he better just know that you're better than him. And all that will happen is he'll prove to you who's boss. And it's really easy. It's not difficult to do that. He'll give you the standard thing. Well, that was a nice drive today. I enjoyed our conversation, but it's a pity you didn't pass today. Don't worry about it. Come back next time. Okay, humility. Okay, difference between navigation faults and driver faults. So the examiner says to you, there's a junction coming up. At the junction, I'd like you to turn left. That's what he's told you. Examiner said to you, it's a junction coming up. At the junction, I'd like you to turn left. And you, for the life of you, can't see the junction. You carry on straight. Now, but just at the last minute, you see the junction. And you quickly put on your signal and you zoom around the corner on the left-hand side. What do you think has just happened? As you were going to make a navigation fault. But instead, what you've done now is you've made a driver fault. Who can tell me what the implications are of that driver fault compared to the navigation fault? Can anybody say to me, all right, if you had carried on straight, seen the junction, took note of it, didn't have enough time to do the signal, mirror signal and everything else, and carried on past it, that's now a navigation fault. But if you see the junction and suddenly put on your signal and then zoom into the junction, you've made a driver fault because you haven't given yourself enough time and you didn't identify the junction in time to prepare properly to do that left turn. And so it's become dangerous and the examiner's unhappy with it. So now that's a driver fault. Which one of those two faults? Would both those faults fail you? That's the question. So let me ask you, would both those faults fail you? Would a driver fault fail you at that junction and a navigation fault? Would somebody like to try and answer that question for us? Yeah, that's right. That's correct. Only, no, the driver fault will fail you, not the navigation fault. When you make a navigation fault, and you don't, that doesn't go with a driver. You don't make a driver fault as well. Sometimes people make both faults. But if you don't make, don't make a navigation, if you make a navigation fault, it's not regarded as a serious fault. But be careful here. Because what happens is you also don't want to make multiple navigation faults. They're not marked as minors. But if you cannot navigate, the examiner will fail you on the principle of being unable to follow instructions. So you can't just say, well, I'll just go where I want to go. and I'll ignore what he says to me, or I'll make 3 or 4 navigation faults. You get into a situation like that, those navigation faults are going to count against you because it will irritate the examiner. Because now you're proving that you can't follow instructions, and he will fail you on something else. So it's not like you're going to get away with it if you make multiple navigation faults. But a navigation fault, if you didn't see the junction or didn't see the junction on time, and I'm reading from the questions here, if you didn't see the junction or didn't see it on time, the best thing you can do is just go straight. And the examiner will ask you, well, what happened there? Then you can just say to him, a typical answer which works well is just, I got confused. It's a good answer. I got confused. Or you blame your instructor. You say, no, my instructor always goes straight here. So blame the instructor. Okay. I always say blame the instructor. It's the easiest way to get out of it. Or my instructor never turns left here. And then the examiner will tell you, look, when I tell you to do something, please do follow through on my instructions. Okay, sir, sorry, I got a little bit confused there. Okay, that's excellent. Okay, independent driving. The reason I want to mention this is, guys, we are getting a lot of examiners that are, a lot of test centers that are now backing up with new examiners that are coming from the DVSA or past examiners from the past. And they're coming to the DVSA. And what will happen is they come to the DVSA and they don't have navigation systems for them. And what they are reverting to doing is using what we used to do in the old days, which is independent driving. And independent driving takes 2 forms. The one form is where they tell you to follow signs. For instance, they'll tell you, okay, follow the signs to the M25, or follow the signs to Hertford or Hertfordshire, or the best county in England, Essex. So if they tell you to follow the signs to Essex, you're there. That's the best county in England. So just if they can tell you to follow signs, that's one thing they use instead of navigation. The other thing too that they used to use was independent driving, where they give you a picture and they say, okay, at the end of the road, turn right. When you reach the mini roundabout, turn left, and then the 3rd junction, turn right. Now, remember that when they say follow the signs, you can actually ask questions, because navigation is not being able to drive according to what you see and hear in navigation is important, but you are allowed to ask for clarification on navigation. It's like having your wife or your husband sitting next to you with a map. Did you guys notice I use both genders, right? I'm good. Okay, so it's either the husband or the wife sitting next to you with a map. The one who can read the map best is the one sitting with a map next to you. So what happens is, that person sitting next to you, you can keep asking them questions, isn't it? How far are we from the junction? Or what is the next road sign we got to look for? So that's the same with the examiner. You can ask him. So if you get a roundabout, the turn, the exit to the roundabout is the 3rd one is to Essex, which is the good county, by the way. When you're going to Essex, which is the good county, right? Then, and it's the 3rd one, you can actually say to him, oh, it's the 3rd exit. Have I got it correct? And he will invariably say, yes, it's the 3rd exit. Okay. So you can ask. And if you get that independent driving where they give you the little map that you have to follow, you can ask after every junction. Just try and remember. Don't try and remember all of them. I always say to my students, I used to say to my students, forget about it. Look at his thing and say, yes, I understand. And then the moment you drive off, you say, okay, what's the first instruction? And he'll say, at the end of the road, turn right. And then what's the next instruction? And once you've turned right, oh, at the mini roundabout, turn left. He's got to give you the navigation. You don't have to remember all that navigation. A lot of people sit there and then they get all flustered because they think they have to remember it. You don't. You can actually keep asking. There's no reason you can't ask for navigation and clarification. So remember, don't make a driver fault. Rather, don't suddenly react when you're driving as well. Keep it smooth. Smooth driving. Be smooth, guys. Be smooth. Right? Got it. Okay, that's us. Now I'll take questions. Okay, while you are thinking about the questions, I see there's a Q&A. Why do learners always fail at roundabouts? I'll tell you why. That's exactly the question I wanted. Guys, you asked for this. You really did ask for this one. You know why? Because they don't study roundabouts correctly. They don't, it's not about not being able to do them. It's because the tuition material that you are given on roundabouts doesn't cover all the aspects of roundabouts. And the one thing we do at BDSL, we give you free access. You can buy access or you can have free access. If you are one of our clients, you have free access to BDSL Online. And BDSL Online, its major tuition material is all about roundabouts, and they are absolutely a must-do. They teach you about open roundabouts, closed roundabouts, mini roundabouts, and spiral roundabouts. And I bet you out of all of those things, I've said 3 things you don't know, even if you haven't done that course, the online tuition course. I've mentioned 3 words there that you don't know: spiral roundabouts, closed roundabouts, open roundabouts. You don't know those words. But you don't know those words only because you haven't learned those words. And if you're one of our clients, you're a paying client, you get free access to all this online tutorial material that which covers all these aspects around roundabouts. And honestly, believe me, you heard I don't know if you guys heard the intro. Every single student of ours who learns the roundabouts properly, learns about shielding, learns about covers, learns about things that you don't know about. Really, once they've studied those roundabout videos, they're in a different league to everybody else because they can identify the roundabout. They know what's coming up on the roundabout, what type of roundabout it is. They know what signage prepares them for the roundabout. And then in the end, what happens is they also have a plan to deal with the roundabout. Open spiral roundabout is quite a tricky thing, but if you know how to deal with it, it's a walk in the park. It really becomes so easy. Okay, really important. So Lariska has put it on there for you guys, a BDSL Online. Let me just show you that quickly. I'll show you the website. Guys, this is, I'm not joking. If I cannot tell you, I've been doing this forever. And it took me a long time to develop this tutorial material. This is the website, BDSL Online, BDS at the top there, bdslonline.com. That's the website. And it's a membership site with videos on it. And really, honestly, you need to watch those videos. They're not there for entertainment. They're tuition videos, okay? All right, okay. Okay, is the next one. When can you go to the motorway when learning? Well, you're allowed to go onto the motorway only under the supervision of a qualified driving instructor. Okay, so you've got to have a properly qualified driving instructor to take you onto the motorway. And he will assess whether you could go on the motorway or not. So that's while you're a learner. Once you have passed your driving test, you can go and drive on the motorway. But I would honestly suggest that whoever needs to use the motorway, if you have not had motorway tuition during your process of learning to drive, because it's not mandatory, you don't need to. There are, the Borehamwood Test Centre takes you on and off the motorway. They do. Loughton is starting to look at whether they can do it as well. There are a number of places where they're actually looking at including some motorway driving as well. But normally, if you do a Chingford test, you might go onto the 406, but that's not really a fast motorway. It is a motorway, but it's not fast. It's only 50 miles per hour. But no, and its feed lanes are actually, they aren't merging lanes. There's only one section where there's merging lanes and not feed lanes. But those are things, the motorway tuition, I would suggest that once you get your license, have a good instructor, find a good instructor, use your good instructor to give you 2 to 3 hours tuition on how to access a motorway and how to use a motorway. Okay. All right. We have a hand up. Sure. How can I help? You have the floor. You can unmute your, you can just unmute on your, you've got your hand up. So how can I, yeah, you just switch on your mic. You've got, yes, go for it.
Do we have to prompt like every whatever the navigation is, do we have to prompt with the instructor? Do we have to keep on prompting?
No, you don't have to. I mean, the time you would do that is if you've got if it's unclear to you. So that wasn't intended for you to keep prompting. It was if you don't know where you're going and you need to ask, don't be afraid to ask. That's all I'm saying.
Like if we are approaching through roundabout and we have to take a third exit, so do we have to keep on prompting to ourselves that we are approaching to roundabout and we're gonna stay on the right side and take a third exit?
You're saying, do you have to ask him? If he's told you that and you understand it, there's no reason to ask him again. But if you need to ask him again because you're not sure, then you can ask him again. But you can't ask him, where should I be on the roundabout? He'll tell you, do what you think is correct. He's not going to tell you that, because if he starts having to guide you through the roundabout, you're in trouble. Does that make sense, Shra?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. Okay. Is there anybody else who's got any more questions? Okay, guys, thank you very much. If nobody else has any questions this evening, I see there's, is there anything else, Lariska? Are we good? Are we done?
Looks like we are good.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Really appreciated that. I hope you enjoyed that as well. And if you've got any questions or you're stuck on anything like that, please ask us, because we like to tell people, and we will use the information as well on our website so that we inform people how this thing works. And please attend these if you're building up for a if you're building up for a test. Really, you should attend these. We have not recycled any of these webinars yet. We're doing new material. Every Thursday, we're doing new material. So, and it comes about from questions people ask us or experiences we're having with the driving test centers that are coming from our students, and that's coming from our instructors. We have 500 instructors on our books and about 40,000 students. So guys, really, really, it's important that you interact with us so that we can learn and make sure that we're helping you as much as we possibly can to get through this pesky test. Okay? Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.